I also learned that a common expression to describe Israel is that it's a melting pot, referring to people of diverse origins and cultures living there, implying that eventually we'll all become one complex culture. Well, I think it failed spectacularly. When I hear melting pot, what comes to mind is fondue. When I think of the rich human diversity in Israel, I prefer a different description that I recently heard from a friend. One of a colorful mosaic, where every piece is perfect just the way it is and the way it isn't. It is every piece's uniqueness that contributes to the holistic beauty of the entire mosaic. Singapore is often compared to Israel for various reasons, but I think the most important one is the rich human diversity that two countries have. One among 11 countries in Southeast Asia, Singapore is a mosaic of an exceptionally rich breadth of peoples, ethnicities, and beliefs in the region, all beautiful in their own right, but also are part of something bigger, richer, and stronger. CEOs here are very lucky that they can tap into such rich pool of talent. So what does diversity mean from a business perspective? Diversity means understanding that each individual is unique and recognizing and accepting our individual differences. It is about including and involving people from a range of different dimensions of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age, physical abilities, religious beliefs, and other ideologies. But diversity is not the same as inclusion. And having a diverse workforce doesn't automatically imply inclusive culture. There's a quote I like that explains this difference very well. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. Inclusion means recognizing that everyone has value and everyone can contribute. It means accommodation of people the way they are and the way they aren't. Inclusion is the culture in which a mix of people can come to work, feel comfortable and confident to be themselves, to feel safe, to work in a way that suits them while fulfilling the overall needs of the business. But diversity is the first and easier step. Inclusion is the key to leveraging diversity. I believe that embracing and implementing diversity and inclusion at a workplace is simply the right thing to do. But it is also a good business. What are the business benefits of having an inclusive organization? Well, diversity brings new ideas and experiences into a company, with people being able to learn from each other. Working in cognitively diverse teams opens up a dialogue and promotes creativity. When we live and work with people who are different, we're more likely to be exposed to new ideas and new ways of thinking. Mixing with people of different backgrounds and life experiences brings us to question why we're doing the things the way we do. It opens up a space for new possibilities to emerge, which means an increase in creativity and innovation, and therefore better problem solving. Inclusive organizations make their employees feel valued for their work contributions, and not only executives, but also administrative assistants and technicians. When people feel valued, they're more satisfied with their job. And when you're recognized and appreciated, why would you want to leave? People leave organizations that they feel take advantage of them, of other people. While inclusive organizations find ways to visibly show how much they value all contributions. And that's what keeps people in. Importantly, when the work is visible and valued, people are motivated to do better, not just for themselves, but for the company, resulting in increased productivity. When an organization is diverse, it helps to recognize other ways of being that are different from our own. and interactions with others can build trust and respect, improving collaboration and internal communications, thus avoiding silos. And with such foundations, organizations are more flexible and even resilient, that they quickly and optimally adjust to the changes that are happening around us. The long-term benefit of inclusive organization is that they create, attract, and retain the best employees. They create them through improving problem-solving skills and encouraging constant personal growth and development. They attract them because people want to work for a company that is high-performing, that values diversity, and has high employee morale. They retain them because the company grows. People feel valued, and they're happy with what they do. All of that means better employees, which means better results for the company. And this reminds me of my PhD student days. I was a Marie Curie fellow and had 3 supervisors in 2 different countries, 2 in Belgium and 1 in France. I was living in Brussels and I was pregnant with my first child, first year into my PhD. And my 2 supervisors were extremely supportive and accommodating of everything that comes with first pregnancy and having a first child. And I couldn't wait to go back to work after my maternity. When we then went to France, my supervisor there was the father of 3 daughters, and his wife was executive level professional. In one of the meetings, he causally commented that if I were to get pregnant again, I can forget about my PhD. Needless to say, I was quite shocked to hear that. When at the end he wanted me to continue working for him, not surprisingly, I refused. So this is obviously completely contrary to anything approaching inclusion. Let's look at some numbers. McKinsey research from 2019 found that gender diverse companies are 25% more likely to have above average profitability than their peers. And ethnically diverse companies are 36% more likely to do the same. Going closer to home, Southeast Asia, in 2020, research from Boston Consulting Group focused on the region revealed that companies with a strong emphasis on diversity and inclusion benefit from reduced turnover, improved innovation, and increased profitability. This survey included more than 6,100 employees in Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, focusing on aspects of diversity that included gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, as well as age, nation of origin, and disability status. Many respondents from underrepresented groups reported an unfair environment at work. And overall, 50% agreed that there are obstacles for women, ethnic minorities, and LGBTQ employees. And that's compared to 37% worldwide that agreed with this statement. When asked about the importance of inclusive employers, employees in Southeast Asia expressed a willingness to leave their current employer for a more inclusive organization. And that should be a wake-up call for leadership teams, because replacing 2 to 3% of staff would cost more than 25 billion a year regionally. Another important finding concerned innovation. By hiring people from different backgrounds and ensuring that their voices are heard, companies can bring the benefit of harnessing different perspectives to solve problems, to avoid groupthink, and address challenges in unconventional ways. The BCG research showed that in Southeast Asian companies, a more diverse workforce was correlated with greater innovation and a higher share of revenue coming from new products. Diversity and inclusion programs also are less common in Southeast Asia than elsewhere. Overall, 58% of respondents in the region said that their companies had put in place formal programs to boost diversity and inclusion, whereas 96% of employees in the rest of the world reported having such programs. There's also high variability between the countries on specific programs aimed at women, ethnic minorities, and LGBTQ employees. And these findings highlight large amount of work that Southeast Asian companies still have to do. But it also shows that there's an opportunity for forward-looking organizations to have a lead in their respective domains and to reap the benefits. McKinsey, Deloitte, Gartner, BCG, Catalyst, and countless others have documented the business case for diversity and inclusion over the past 2 decades. But it doesn't seem to be enough because action is stalling. Putting aside research and surveys, if one to logically consider the market in which organizations are now increasingly operating in, it simply makes sense to take an inclusive approach. Because changing demographics, emerging markets, and new buying trends all point to the need for a more diverse workforce. To sustain a culture of success, companies need to incorporate the concept of diversity and inclusion into every operation, system, and process. Remembering that Southeast Asia is one of the most diverse regions in the world, with more than 100 ethnic groups and 655 million people speaking more than 1,000 languages and dialects. By failing to focus on diversity and inclusion, Southeast Asian companies are leaving significant value on the table. Sadly, inclusion and diversity does not happen just because a company makes a statement or writes about it in the values section on their website or annual report. It is an intentional and active long-term pursuit. Leaders have to embody the right attitudes and behaviors every day, every minute, and they have to mean it. And it becomes clearly evident if they don't. It starts with individual mindset and attitude. We have to be open, unafraid of differences, and we have to embrace the unique potential in individuals whose lives are very different from our own. For me, it starts with deep curiosity for the world around me and the people I meet. And I consciously practice it. And when you consciously practice inclusion and welcome others the way they are, then true acceptance of diversity follows. In other words, we have to look within ourselves to overcome external differences. So how does it look like at the company level? Even at companies that have yet to launch programs to ensure basic protection to all employees, regardless of identity, starting with anti-discrimination policies already can unlock significant value. Companies that already have basic measures in place can consider expanding their programs to include hidden minorities, such as employees of different abilities. Leaders need to demonstrate that support for diversity and inclusion by speaking about it publicly. And practice inclusive leadership, where leaders need to create a safe team environment where all employees can speak up, be heard, and feel welcomed. The most successful diversity and inclusion programs are outcome-focused, with specific targets for which leaders are accountable. Achieving a diverse and inclusive company is the responsibility of those in leadership position and of employees. But the most important action of all that needs to be taken is to challenge your own unconscious bias and to provide meaningful training to management and employees. And there's a reason I highlighted the last sentence. It is because I want to say something about bias. We don't mean to be biased. Neither we mean to be exclusive. None of us does. And yet, we all are. Bias arises because human beings have an automatic system which we use to make decisions. It's characterized as unconscious and fast, instinctive, effortless, associative, and uncontrolled. It is like an autopilot. It dominates the majority of our behaviors and our choices. And then we have a reflective system that is defined as conscious and slow, effortful, rational, logical, self-aware, rule-following, and controlled. All people use these two modes of thinking and reacting at all times. And these are universal across all human beings. That one we definitely share. These two interconnected cognitive systems create two interdependent modes of thinking in our mind. And the gap between them is a source of the perpetuation of disparity between our intentions and our actions. Anthropologist and global changemaker Tina Nielsen pioneered innovative approaches for practitioners and leaders to accelerate inclusiveness, equality, and gender parity in their sphere of influence. She's a co-founder of nonprofit Inclusion Nudges. These are behavioral designs to de-bias and enhance inclusive collaboration, leadership, development, and decision-making. These are the how-to. And I sincerely recommend looking at this initiative to help leaders start getting a picture of what can be done to achieve diversity and inclusion in a meaningful way in organizations. The next decade will look very different from the past one, as today's powerful trends continue to unfold. Maintaining the capacity to explore new opportunities, new strategies, and grow sustainably is more important than ever. And I love this quote from Dame Jane Goodall. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Thank you very much for your attention.